Now let's talk about NPM, Laravel Mix, and Tailwind. All of these things are optional, but we think they're a really great way to build the front end of your site, so we include them pre-configured right out of the box. We're not going to assume that you know anything about any of them, so let me walk you through each bit step by step. NPM is a package manager that runs on Node. Now, Node is a JavaScript runtime engine that does server-side things or command line tooling built in JavaScript. So you need to have Node installed, and when you install Node, you get NPM automatically. And if you look at this package.json file, you will see the libraries that it installs and handles for you automatically. This is a lot easier than running around the internet and downloading JavaScript files by hand and including them in your projects. It's also easier than installing add-ons or plugins into your CMS, in this case Statamic, to do it for you, because this allows you to choose just the things that you want to use without any bloat. So if this truly is your first time experiencing or running into Node and NPM, let me show you how to go ahead and get it installed. Head to nodejs.org and click on this recommended for most users installer. Run it, and that's basically it. It will install Node and NPM for you, and you'll know it works when you head to your terminal and run node-v and see the version that you're on, or npm-v, and you'll see which version of NPM you're running. The exact version usually doesn't matter, but because of the way dependencies work, sometimes it does. Generally speaking, if you're using the latest version of both of them, you're going to be solid. So we can install all of those dependencies from our package.json file by running npm install. This is going to go fetch all of them, and if those dependencies, or if those libraries also have their own dependencies, it's going to go and install them. And if those have their own dependencies, it'll install them, so on and so forth. So sometimes this can take a while. We're back. Great, so now we have some files on our system. What are you going to do with that? Well, this is where Webpack comes in. Webpack is a build tool. It's not the only one. There are others like Gulp or Guzzle if you go further back, but Webpack is one of the more popular ones. Now let's look at a webpack.mix.js file. In this file, there are just a couple of rules here. We're defining Laravel Mix, which is a package that makes it a whole lot easier to deal with Webpack files. If you had to write one from scratch, you'd probably hate it and you would never come back. So this makes it really easy, and we wrote it for you. This line right here is taking the contents of your site.js file, compiling it, minifying it, and we'll version it if you're in production and drop that in your public/JS directory. Here does the same thing for your CSS, but it also does post CSS importing. It compiles Tailwind. It does nested stuff, so we don't have to use Sass or less. And then this post CSS preset env file also does some cool stuff like auto prefixing and cleaning up your code. So all of this is just baked in with the files that Statamic ships with, so you don't have to mess with it. You just got to run one command. That one command is npm run dev. That's if you're on your local development machine, or npm run production if you're on your production server. Now more about this in a minute, because first I want to show you Tailwind. Tailwind is a utility-first CSS framework, which means you can build stuff using these utility classes instead of pre-built components. And this lets you get highly customizable. It lets you avoid having to override classes and do a lot of like kind of nasty garbage CSS, and it makes building sites fun again. So Tailwind is highly customizable, and if you go to the configuration section of the documentation, you can see how that works. So there's a tailwind.config.js file, which you may have noticed in our project, and inside that you can set your theme, where you control fonts and colors and margins and everything. So the default configuration looks a bit like this. Not a bit, exactly. This is literally the default configuration. And there's all these colors and spacing and all the way down to here. Now, in our Tailwind config, We don't override everything, which lets you just jump in here and customize where you want to. You can copy and paste the entire config if you want, but the thing that matters is we've gone ahead and wired up Purge. So the way Tailwind works is it generates all of the possible classes you could use in your site, and then Purge deletes everything you didn't actually use in your project. So it's going to look through your antlers templates, it's going to look through your blade files and all of your content and strip out any classes that you didn't use to keep that build size small, because the basic build is like 2 to 3 megabytes. And the way you build that is by running npm run dev if you're on your local machine. And that will build the development version, the whole pile of classes, everything, couple of megabytes. And then when you're done, when you launch your site, when you push it into production, you build it running npm run production, either on your server or before you push it and commit those files. And we can cover different ways of deploying your site in another video. But you can see this is 2.7 megabytes. And if we go over to our project and open up our layout.antlers file, this is the view that every request to Statamic is loaded with, and then your individual templates are injected here. So we can come in and change this to like background black and text white, refresh the home page, and boom, just that easy. So that's Tailwind, that's NPM, and that's a little tiny bit about Laravel Mix and Node.